Hi guys, welcome back to OC Talks, and I'm here with, on my right,
Favour,
and on my left,
Mary,
and I'm Yele. So today we're just gonna get some questions asked. We don't know what they're gonna ask us. We're just waiting for our, what do we call it? The voice of God at the back, or unknown voice, or whatever.
I'd say just like growing up was like a tough period as a Christian, because like where I was brought up, like there wasn't a lot of Christian people in school. I think I was like the only Christian that I would have known of. And then outside in my area, because there wasn't really like a lot of like black families, so like it was just mainly all these like Oyibo families, and like most of them are Christian as well. So I think that was kind of hard because I couldn't really like relate to anybody, and you had like a lot of different like points of views and a lot of different ways of looking at things, and I think that made it very difficult. So I'd say that was my hardest time.
I would say for me is unlearning like a lot of stuff that I used to do before I was a Christian, and even when I became a Christian, like some things that I thought were okay but were not okay. So unlearning all those stuff were kind of hard, because it's kind of a mental thing, because you've been doing it for so long that you can't do it anymore, so it's kind of hard. Yeah, that's for me.
I think for me it's kind of trying to just distinguish God's voice in my life, kind of. You know, like, does God actually want me to do this, or does God want me to do that, or does God want me to go here, or does he want me to go there? Sometimes I think we can be kind of confused, especially when trying to figure out what our purpose is, and trying to understand, like, okay, if I do this, does that mean that I'm going, like, you know, on my own path, or is this something that God actually wants me to do? If that makes sense, like, kind of just knowing, trying to navigate where you are going, even on a day-to-day, sometimes as a broader kind of spectrum. I think that's been kind of tough for me. That's one of my tough periods as a Christian. Yeah, because society will tell you to do
one thing.
You know what I mean? And then the God within you is telling you to do
Opposite.
You know. So it's kind of like the way that the world's going nowadays. You know, a lot of people want to be this way or that way, or, you know what I mean, various different ways. And I think that, like, you're kind of figuring out your feet, like, what am I meant to be doing? And it kind of feels weird because you're not with them, but then, like, you're not all the way, like, gonna be isolated. So where is it that God wants to put you? You know what I mean? Yeah, that can be tough sometimes.
I think mine with Mary's as well kind of goes hand in hand as well, like feeling like you're kind of like in the middle. So like, especially growing up, like my relationship with God wasn't the best. Like I feel like I kind of resented God for a long time just because of like things that were going on in my life. But at the same time, I believed in God, and I knew that God was like real and everything. So I had like certain like views and morals that were like very different. And it is hard to like find your feet, because when it's like one of you and there's like 30 people who all have a completely different point of view, a different idea, like every time it's like everything you don't agree on. Because like obviously with people you don't agree with like you don't all just agree with everything. Even as Christians we don't always agree, but when it's like you're always the one that has a completely different point of view and everyone else is like they're all agreed, I think that is very, very hard. And it's like something like once coming into like college and stuff and meeting more people more similar to me, I found that like a lot easier to deal with, because you get to meet more like-minded people. But even within like Christians, I feel like it's even kind of hard to find your feet, because like lots of time we have loads of different views on different things, that especially like with the way the world is now, like I feel like it's like Mary said, it's really hard, because there's so much like, you know, there's stuff that like it's like clearly in the Bible, like the Bible kind of says it in one way, but then we still have like 5 different opinions or ideas of what that means, and it is hard to kind of just know where exactly you should stand with those views. I think that's hard.
And with what you said, I kind of relate what you said at the beginning, but you said community and around you, but mine was at home, because my parents are Muslim, so my view were very different from theirs. So there was conflict. So that was a difficult time in my life too, but we thank God getting through that. But like, it's just it's hard, because you're like, I'm going to church, and you're like, but I'm going to mosque. You know, so it was so different. So I'll say that for me.
I think also there's the thing of like comparison as well. Usually just like going through life as young people as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult enough on top of trying to figure out your relationship with God. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people, well, few people don't believe in God.
Yeah.
So it's their choice of whether they want to go left or right today. You know what I mean? So then, but then when you're as a young person growing up, we're facing these challenges of like, okay, my flesh obviously is like, I want XYZ.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And then, but I'm trying to be a better Christian, so I'm trying to listen out and I'm trying to actually like better myself as a Christian, as a person that's trying to follow this way of God. And I think that sometimes you can look at other people and compare yourself to others that are not, necessarily on the same path. You know what I mean? And I think as humans in general, one huge thing that we all deal with is comparison. You have from the top to the littlest. You have all these tech companies competing with each other because they're comparing. You know what I mean? And then you have like, let's say, healthcare. Like, oh, this drug is better. This drug is better. Everything is based on comparison. You know what I mean? And especially as like, just trying to figure out your way, it can be kind of weird, kind of hard.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a mad thing.
So I'd say for me, like, again, what I was talking about earlier, like, I feel like that really affected my mental health. So there's a period of time where my mental health was, like, really, really, really bad. Like, I would have thoughts that were, like, just, like, really, really bad about myself and just about, like, my place in the world. I think for me, like, first things first that helped me was just, like, reaching out for help and, like, acknowledging what was happening, because, like, you kind of, like, ignore certain things, as a Christian sometimes, because like sometimes, I don't know, if for me anyway, I feel like, oh, I shouldn't be going through certain things like this, like, I don't know, like you just feel like, oh, everything should be like fine. So when like certain things are happening, you're just like, oh, why is this happening to me? And then like you can just tend to like ignore it. And then it just got to a point where it's like you actually cannot ignore this anymore. Like it's literally like eating away at you. So like I really like reached out for help and reached out to different people around me, and from doing that really like helped me to get out of my tough time.
I'll say for me, with like unlearning things, it was the thing that I just, with a lot of things that I used to do before I was a Christian, and even things that when I was a Christian that I learned were wrong, what I did was actually go into the Word properly, because I was reading the Bible and I was getting some things and they were amazing to me, but going back and actually looking at what they mean, they're not what they mean. You know, so I had to learn how to actually read the Word properly, and it is hard, but I had to actually take my time to learn how to read it with context, with everything to do with it, because I used to just read it without context, so just read and get anything out of it, and obviously I still get things from it, but it ties in with the context, so I actually know what I'm reading. So like when there's questions about different things, I know where my views are, I know where I lie, I know what I should be doing and what I shouldn't be doing. So with that one, the thing, well, also with what you said, that with the community, with mine is obviously at home, what I had to learn is actually, I think I had to stand in my faith more, because it was a thing that I said, let me hide it at the beginning. But that was like, it was kind of limiting me. So I couldn't do everything God needed me to do. So it was a thing that I just needed to actually trust and rely on God. And I think that's with everything we do. It's just trust and rely on God. And the same way in the Bible, he gave the apostles, or the disciples, strength and boldness when every time they preached. That's what I just studied, that strength and that boldness. And when I stood firm in my faith and they saw that, they couldn't reject it. So it was a thing that I just needed to stand strong in it, and obviously don't push them too much. Don't say I'm a rebel now. It wasn't like, still be peaceful. Show them that you have that peace. Show them Christ in you, and they can't really do anything. So that was with me.
That's good. I agree with a lot of what you said. I think the Word is really like an anchor in these things, because like as much as like I can pray, as much as I can worship, like my truest form of hearing from God is by going into the Word. You know what I mean? So that's how the Holy Spirit would speak to me, and that's what the basis of what my decision would be come from.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So just like, for example, looking very recently, I was looking at the Wisdom series, which is like Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Job.
Yeah.
And it kind of started off as like Proverbs is this like wise person who knows everything about the world, and she knows about all of these different things, and she's just like giving you steps of how like you should go about life and stuff like that. But then on the other hand, you go to Ecclesiastes, and Ecclesiastes is like, it's kind of meaningless. You know what I mean? Like, life is very fleeting. 1 minute it's there and 1 minute it's not. And then you get to the book of Job, and the book of Job kind of ties it all together. And the book of Job is kind of just like when God appears to Job, God is like, look, irrespective of whatever you go through, I am God, and I am God alone. So it's like, I am so mighty that I know everything about the universe into its most intricate detail. So if I know that that's the God that I serve, I can have full faith in that. There's nothing that I can go through that God won't be within and won't be around and won't be guiding me through and won't be helping me through. You know what I mean? So as much as you can, try and like be like, okay, I'm just gonna do this, and I'm gonna be all this friend. There's no need to worry, because the God that we serve is just he's so mighty. He's so powerful. So irrespective of so it's something that just makes me like, I'm just so worry free. You know what I mean? Like, for now, of course I'm not gonna be worry free forever. But I think just for now, going through that, looking through all of that, I've kind of just learned to be like, you know what? I don't need to put so much pressure on myself. You know what I mean? We don't need to, as Christians, we put so much pressure on ourselves. Exactly. We have to look like we have everything together. We have to like behave as if everything's going perfect. I went through this, but oh Lord, I'm redeemed. But then the person goes and falls, and then they won't say it because they've given their testimony of how God has set them free. You know what I mean? So then they're like, am I truly set free if I'm still battling this issue? You know what I mean? But then I've kind of learned to be like, this life, things will come at you, things will go. Sometimes you'll feel like you have it all together, like Proverbs, and sometimes you'll feel like this life is just meaningless, like Ecclesiastes. Sometimes you will lose everything, like Job, but at the end of it, God is still mightier than all of that. So it's a thing that has just made me just so like, it's calm. You know what I mean? Like, that's my attitude these days. It's like, I'll be fine, like, you know what I mean? Be grand. And I think 2020 as well has taught us all individually some serious lessons. You know what I mean? I think that this year has especially strengthened my dependence on God as well.
I think that's the main thing we're all saying, it's God first. As in, when all our problems with everything, when we put Him first and we actually let Him do the work. If we let Him, because we can't do it by ourselves, we can't get through any of this without God. So He's the one that is actually gonna help us with anything we need. So I think that's the main thing.
And even like on like what you were saying, Mary, because I've actually started reading the book of Job recently, and like I feel like it kind of ties into what I was saying, in that like when Job was going through all of that, and like his friends that were like around him, they were being so annoying, like literally like it's so weird, like, because I feel like the chapter is like so long, but it's just like a constant like back and forth conversation. Like, he's in a moment of like where everything is going wrong, and they're just making everything like so much worse. Like, they like I was literally like reading, and I was just like, can these people like shut up? Like, they just keep going and going and going, and they won't leave him alone. And it just again just shows the importance of like, even like in those times where you have those troubling times, like you need to have the right people around you, because like I was like, if I'm going, God forbid I ever had to go through something like that, if I had people like that around me, I actually don't know what I would do. Like, I think I'd want to like strangle them, because they're like, they're just constantly just adding more to like his pain, adding more to his sorrow, and like it's not what he needed in that moment. So like, the Job, that's like really resonates with me, because I just think that it just really shows the importance of like even being a good friend, but then also just having like the right people around you, because like you said, like, we're gonna have ups and downs. That's normal. Like, we can't expect life to be perfect, but it makes it a lot better when you have the right people around you than when you're surrounded by people who just like kind of like dig the knife in further.
That's true. That's right.
So just the one word, one sentence, one line of advice you'd give to someone who's going through a tough period as a Christian.
Let's start here this time.
Tough times never last. Tough times never last. That's it. That's what I've been telling myself lately. Tough times never last, Sha. You'll get through it. Yeah, trust me, you'll get through it, man. There's nothing in this life that you can't overcome with the help of Jesus Christ.
Yeah. My idea is what I said before. Christ, when you put Christ first, when you just give all your worries, all your struggles, everything to Christ, focus on Him, then everything will work out for the best.
I think mine is that going through tough times doesn't mean that you're a bad person, and that tough times come to everybody. So don't ever feel like you're weak or you're not a good enough Christian or good enough person, because this is part of life, and that God will bring you through, and like Mary said, it will not last. And that's it.
So that's been us, guys. We thank you for listening. We thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to talking to you guys again soon.
And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like,
Comment,
share,
and subscribe.
subscribe.
Thank you.